We'll tell you exactly why, and we've got a great panel of experts with us today, all former coaches of AFL clubs, former champions in their own rights. And firstly, I'd like to introduce the man who won 3 Brownlow medals as the great South Melbourne Rover, Bobby Skilton. How are you, Bob?
Good, thanks, Ed. Pleasure to be here.
And a great day too, a great game of football coming up.
Oh, there's nothing like the MCG when it comes around to the finals.
Well, the players have just come out onto the ground, so we'll just go through some of the changes in a moment. But also I'd like to introduce John Nicholls, of course, the magnificent Carlton champion. We'll be going through the rucks, particularly today in this game. It is such a key issue with the number of players out. Scott Wine, one of them. But firstly, John, welcome aboard.
Great to be here, Ed. It's like Skilts, we can smell the finals atmosphere. It's great.
We've got the great ruckman and the great rover, so we should be able to balance it out. I'll see if I can play the ruck roving role at the moment.
I used to make these rovers.
But we have got one of the greatest ruck rovers ever to play the game in Barry Davis, also joining us a little bit later. Now, we've just seen the sides come out, and interestingly enough...
developed fantastically in the last 2 years, but I'm sure that if Charles is given the go, he'll do a good job. But Wind has been a young lion. He's done a tremendous job, and they'll miss him, but no one's indispensable.
I suppose they're lucky they're playing Geelong today, and that their number one ruckman, Damien Burke, is out for the season, and they haven't really replaced him.
Well, that's right, but I mean, there's been a lot of players made their debuts in finals, and I remember back when Len Thompson made his first finals game, a big gangly young kid, and started a great career, and it could happen the same with Charles.
All right, well, Bob, you've seen the Geelong side come out. Not only have they lost one of their powerhouse running players in Mark Bairstow, but also their captain today. How significant a loss is that, do you think?
Oh, certainly, a player like Bairstow will be a loss at any time, but he's also the type of player that I'm sure would not be a dominating force unless he's 100% fit.
All right, well, you've seen them come out. Any likely changes, do you think, at the moment? They're all huddled up there, ready to go. Both teams, obviously, all pumped up and ready to fire. Where do you think that the matchups will come? Stephen Hocking coming into the side for Geelong.
I think he'll go straight into the centre and man up on Atkins. He did a fine job the last time they met. It was a pretty close game down at Geelong, and Footscray came out of that one with a lot of confidence because they finished well. Geelong got the jump on them, but Stephen Hocking personally did an excellent job against Simon Atkins. So I'll be very surprised if he doesn't line up on him today.
And for Footscray, Wine's replacement?
Well, I would think it'll be Justin Charles, but then, who knows? It could well be you find Coleman, but Coleman's done such a good job on the forward line, I don't think they'd leave him there.
All right, Bob, well, we're just getting ready. The players starting to move into the positions now. Very interesting to see that Doug Hawkins is taking up position out on the old Doug Hawkins wing rather than a forward pocket. So maybe Doug Hawkins being put in the play to influence proceedings as the captain of the Footscray club, their most experienced player. Just sit back and relax and let us tell you what's going to happen during this great qualifying final of 1992. Okay, cut there.
That's good. I think he's a stage squad player next year at Victoria.
Okay. Well, the game underway now, a couple of minutes in, Bob. Some of the positional changes there with Hocking coming in and going to defence rather than into the centre of the ground.
Well, I think a few of them might settle down a little bit and move in position because Doug Hawkins is up on the wing at the moment, whether he'll stay up there or not. But Liberatore is actually tagging Gary Hocking, and that's not surprising because Liberatore has done that job well right through the year. But Darren Baxter, who often does or used to do tagging jobs, I think they've found that he's a far better player this year in an attacking mould, so they're not using him in a tagging mould.
All right, well, John, one of the key players for Geelong, of course, Gary Ablett, has been out for a month with a hamstring injury, and he's been picked up by Bernard Toohey. How do you see that one?
Well, I think Toohey's experience, we'll certainly keep him in the game, but Ablett's a great player, and the sort of having a hamstring, he'll be a bit rusty after missing 4 games, and Toohey's experience will certainly make it a tight-knit game, but as class will prevail, if Ablett stands the game out, he'll probably be match winners at the finish.
Barnes and Charles, the opposing ruckman.
Well, I think they're very evenly matched. Justin Charles is a typical young ruckman that needs 20 or 30 games in the first ruck to improve. The pressure will bring the best out of Charles.
All right, well, first goal there to Geelong through Billy Brownless. Pushing the back, a little bit frustrating when he's such a fast leading player, isn't he, when he gets out in front, Bob?
Yeah, but with the finals atmosphere, you get all of those tension free kicks early in the situation, and that's why you've got to be very careful. If you're going to give away one, you've got to really make them earn it.
All right, Bob, the ball up set up here. Geelong starting with 2 players on their attacking side, running through with the tap from Barnes, and Footscray doing the same thing, but with Hocking on that side to rove to their ruckman. How do you see that?
Well, a good backhanded tap out there, but I think you've got to give it a little bit of time to settle down, because until you know, it's not like in this case with Barnes and Charles, it's not like you've got John Nicholls out there and have an idea about how he's going to play.
All right. And Doug Hawkins on a wing, do you think that's, as we said a bit earlier, just to get him involved in the play?
I think so, and I think he'll then come down to the forward pocket, because Kellett's down there at the moment. I hope that he might use his pace, but then I believe Kellett will go back up.
Eddie,
Left and right for the kick.
Beautiful left-hand handoff. Yes, at least 20 metres.
No, Skills on the top.
If he is, mate.
That's over to their Ken.
Callous.
well, we've just seen the kick out for the second time from Footscray result in the ball coming right the way up to the 50-metre line, inside 50 metres, with Royal lining up for goal, Bob, and no Geelong player able to get a touch. It's very good set play there.
Well, we really started from that kick out, because the manning up was poor by Geelong. They really loafed on both occasions now. They've got it away, a kick to Baxter in the first place, and the manning up by Geelong on those both kick-outs was very poor.
John, how important is it when you have a set play like that, particularly early in the game, to make it successful? And as we've just seen there, Royals kick the goal.
Well, they've got, that's right, but they have to, it certainly, if it doesn't work the first couple of times, it tends to, you lose confidence in it. But the whole thing is, they've got to create the space, which they've done out in that flank, and the kick has to be kicked into it. And both times Geelong haven't manned up and haven't chased, which I think is a problem.
Now, with this centre bounce, John, it's a bit harder these days, or different these days with the centre line rule. How would you approach it with those setups?
Well, the way they tend, most sides tend to line up, they tend to be orthodox nearly every centre bounce. They don't change the area where they're hitting to. And if you've got a dominating ruckman, every time they hit it to the same spot, the opposing side should be able to probably get 2 out of 3, or at least nullify it. So I think Charles or Barnes, you know, they have to be able to, you know, have about 3 different areas to hit to. They're both running straight in, so they're limited to where they can hit it.
Well, Bob, we've just seen the long bomb there from Andrew Buse. They have got such a great strike power up forward, haven't they? With Stoneham playing well already, and Brownless with a goal to his name.
Well, even yesterday I was critical of St Kilda not putting the long bombs often enough. When you've got marking power up there, such as St Kilda had with Lockett and Lowe, and the same with Stoneham and Brownless, the quicker and more direct you get the ball down there, and if it's going to be punched away from, then you've got players such as Ablett and Cowan to throw in there anyway.
Is it one of these situations today where Footscray really have to graft for their goals and make every opportunity a winner, whereas Geelong have got a little bit more opportunity because they've got so many key forwards down there?
Footscray have still got some boys that have done well throughout, you know, with Chris Grant, and you know, before Royal, I noticed that Royal already is on his second opponent, because Stephen Hocking has been moved down there. He started on Spiro Malacallis. Malacallis now across on Kellett.
Bob, take us through this kick out here. This for the 3rd time now. Footscray looking for a set play.
Yeah, well, Reynolds doing the kick out there, and obviously Geelong have tightened up a little bit. There was no one able to break into a space. Geelong had filled the spaces. They were there waiting for Footscray to come out.
Now, Geelong's forward line set up. They're using Ablett obviously as the leading forward from these situations, 65 metres out, with Brownless back in the square making the late dash.
A big leap by Brownless, but Campbell right there being able to bring the ball down to the ground, and Footscray, you know, tight in defence, and a good play by McPherson on that occasion.
Now we see here Baxter running into space. Didn't quite come to him, but as you mentioned, it's a bit of a change for Baxter. Renowned as a tagger, started off as a tagger, but made the Victorian team this year because of his number of possessions he's able to pick up. I think he's in the top 10 in not only kicks but handballs as well.
Very much a receiver of the ball, and not being critical there, because he just runs and runs and runs. A very fit player, and his fitness winning out on that occasion.
Well, sort of option.
We could easily have seen, you know, if he had got boot to ball on that occasion before it went out of bounds, would have been a free kick anyway. So the inexperience showing by young Charles.
All right, John, the throw in here, forward pocket, 45 metres out from goal. You're obviously tapping to the front there, looking for your Rovers.
Well, if you had been, Barnes certainly had to be completely defensive. It's too risky to go over the back, and Charles has got to try and create something either to the back or to the side. But Barnes had no alternative but to try and go defensive.
In that situation, do you tell the Rovers where to go?
Well, it's sort of a play of its percentages, which you discuss week in, week out throughout the year, and you don't really take a chance in those areas unless it's really on. So
John Nicholls did tell the Rovers where to go, and because they knew it had come.
Well, in that situation though, Bob, the throw in, it's one of the few set plays that actually happen in a game of football. Is it something that you practice at training, that you work out with your ruckman, or is it just one of those ones where you really have to play percentages, as John said?
If your ruckman is good enough, you can work it out, but you've got to know in your own mind whether or not your ruckman is good enough to beat the opposition. And these days it's a little bit different, because the ruckman mightn't come down the ground. He might hang back a kick behind the play with the opposition ruckman, and your centre half forward might do the work.
So the Ablett's been put on the ball for running the ball for change until he's gone with him.
How do you see that, John? He hasn't got a lot of match fitness. He's been out for a month. Is this just a case of maybe to shake the cobwebs off?
I think it's just to give him a run on the ball, get him into the action. But he's never been renowned for his stamina, so I wouldn't think he'd stay there for very long.
Okay. We'll go through that one.
It was a poor tackle, though.
You ready?
That's a sort of comment, I think.
All right. Well, the ball's come down to the forward line there, and Delray's gone in there. Was that too high, Bob? The umpire's given a free kick.
Certainly was too high, and he may well have ducked his head a bit, but I just thought it was a poor tackle. If I'd have been the umpire on that occasion, I too would have penalised him.
You'll never criticise the umpires, Jim.
Yes, I will.
Is that why I got 3 Brownlows, is it, John? Well, he certainly made him pay.
You got 2 of mine.
Umpire Hayden Kennedy. Umpire Hayden Kennedy officiating at his first final. It was a brave decision right in front of goals, and Delray has put it through and really made them pay, Bob.
Yes, Delray doesn't miss too many. I think that's one of the good parts about him throughout this year. A very consistent kick, and quite candidly, a real surprise packet for mine. They're 2 key forwards in Delray and Coleman. It's just, well, I wasn't coach. I don't think I would have taken either of them, and they've been wonderful players.
Just talk, come in with anything you want to say here.
2 free kicks at the goal, so 2 marks, 2 goals from marks, 2 free kicks.
Well, a very interesting ball up here now. Footscray have shot away to a 10-point lead. Great confidence booster, Bob, that goal.
Well, they're not just a 10-point lead. In general play, they're having by far the better of the play, and there hasn't been too many occasions when the ball's got past the Geelong half-forward line. They've bottled them up well. Geelong tending to fiddle around with the ball a little bit more, and I think the skill in a fine substitute for Scott Ryan.
Now, John, do you think that Geelong might be mucking around a little bit too much with their players? They've made a number of changes already, and they seem to be a bit unsettled.
Yes, well, I think they're on the wrong leg at the moment, and Malcolm Blight, I'm sure, is just thinking that they're only 10 points down, but they could be another 2 goals down, and in the next 10 minutes, I think it's probably one of the most vital, even in this early stage. They could also be 5 goals behind if not careful.
Well, Baxter drives forward, 4 Footscray up towards the square. Big chance here, and a big mark for that man Charles, who you mentioned, Bob. He's been playing great football.
Certainly has, and I think Barnes on that occasion could easily have tried to punch the ball away. He too went for the mark, and when it's in the opposition goal square, it's not a good place to try and take marks. I noticed that Couch has gone out to the half-forward flank, and that Gary Hocking at the moment is picking up Simon Atkins.
Now, it's very important, John, obviously, for the ruckman to get right back. Of course, you're a magnificent forward pocket ruckman yourself, kicking 7 in the grand final. It's just so imperative there for Charles to get back, give them that little bit of height, particularly in a game that, or in a side that hasn't got an overabundance of height in their forward line.
Well, it's probably unusual. The tendency is to stay that kick back behind, not go much over the 50-metre line in the centre square, but certainly on that particular stage, he and Del Ray were the 2 players in front of the pack, and with both Geelong players being behind, trying to outmark them. So neither of them punched. Well,
the 5th goal for Footscray, they've got them from set shots, each one of them. They've been marks and a free kick in each occasion, so they've really got a nice set-up in bringing the ball up, Bob, would you say?
I like the way on that occasion that Footscray, you can see Atkins pointing out that, set plans, whereas Geelong were very, very loose at that last centre bounce. Malacallis was 35 metres from Callett. Simpson not bothering at all to go anywhere near Hawkins, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Footscray at the moment are doing a swap of their wings, and they've got set plans, Footscray, and I think Geelong don't quite know where they're going at the moment.
Well, the great advantage is to go into these games as an underdog, and Footscray are certainly in that situation, so they can sort of plan a few different things. And Footscray, they know that Geelong are going to be probably orthodox.
Well, Charles got back again for Footscray there, almost pulled in the mark. This time Geelong able to get it away through Stephen Hocking, only as far as Riccardi though.
Liberatore with his second tackle in 2 seconds. The most number of tackles in the AFL, Liberatore.
A great tackle, and it's so important in those situations, isn't it, Bob?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say to John, at this stage with Charles starting like he has, just got the tap out again. Hanley did extremely well over the season in the ruck for Geelong. Would you consider already a move with Barnes?
I think certainly Charles has had the advantage, so Hanley at this stage hasn't had a lot down there, and it's worth a try. He'll have to have a go at it shortly, otherwise Charles will get right on top.
Well, Geelong are in trouble here. Stephen Hocking just was cleaned up. I think he might have even broken his hand or an arm there. They're waving for him to go straight off the ground. He was cleaned up with a beautiful hip and shoulder by Doug Hawkins. So it's a bad loss for Geelong there. The man who came in for their ill captain, Mark Bairstow, is off the ground and looks like he might be off for the whole game.
Well, he's not the type of player to go off with just a minor injury. Very courageous player, Stephen Hocking, and for him to go straight off like that probably is serious.
Well, he was cleaned up beautifully by Doug Hawkins. That must be a bit of a boost for a side like Footscray to see their captain clean somebody up like that, John. The physical contact right at the start or this early part of the game.
Well, one bump doesn't make a lot of difference, but certainly it's good. It's good to have confidence to have someone do something courageous. It tends to give them a lift, but it's a long way. They all know it's a long way to go. One bump doesn't make that much difference.
His brother trying to square up then for him. Now Ablett. Very quick goal there to Billy Brownless. What did you think of that one? A little kick around the corner there?
Yeah, well, once again, you're in the hands of the umpires if they call play on or not. They, and they're inconsistent because they always call time off, and so they can direct them to their very narrow thing. And that particular stage, Kennedy didn't. He allowed him to play it on. As I said, they're inconsistent in doing that type of thing.
So you thought he should have been lined up and put on his angle?
Well, umpires always, when they take a shot right against the point post or the goal post, they stop play and they make them go back and take a set shot.
Well, with or without the umpire, Campbell should have made sure that he really manned up on that mark even if he was running at him, that he had to be lined up, because he would have been lined up on such an acute angle that he would have had to run around and hook it back anyway.
So undisciplined play there from Campbell, just a little bit, maybe a little bit caught napping?
Lack of thought, yeah.
Starting to make a difference.
Was that Barry?
The bounce situation here, John, right in the teeth of goals. What would you be doing as the Geelong ruckman in this occasion, right in your goal square?
At this stage of the game, they should be putting it through for a point.
If you're the Geelong ruckman on this occasion, though, in the forward pocket, right up near your end?
You've got to just try and. You've only got two areas, either over the back or to the side. Just try and get a big punch over the backs like that.
It was a lovely tap out from Stoneham.
It was a great tap from Stoneham, yes.
And he found Buse put it through, so that's the classic forward pocket throw-in that case.
Yes, but it's bad defence from Footscray, because they would automatically know that it's trying to be hit in those two areas, immediately at the back or to the side, and they should have it reinforced coverage.
Yeah. 20 minutes into the first quarter, you can bet that probably both coaches are saying, well, there's about 100 minutes to go, so there's no need at all to rush things around, panic.
Do you think there might have been a little bit of panic on Malcolm Blanch's behalf there for that middle 10 minutes of the quarter, from 10 minutes to 20 minutes, where Footscray were getting on top? A lot of moves being made.
Oh, I think the runner was out pretty frequently, so I think he decided that he didn't have the right men on certain players, and so they swapped them around. I noticed that Brown now has gone on to Chris Grant. Malak Ellis has gone back onto Brian Royal, so he really is moving his players around a bit. They're the same players that he's moving around, and they may be set plans.
Okay. Well, 2 goals in 2 minutes to Geelong has got them back in town. They only trailed by 4 points, but once again the long kick forward, and Grant has been able to take the mark and line up for yet another set shot for Footscray.
Well,
yep. Okay. Well, joining our coverage now, former Essendon and North Melbourne champion Barry Davis. Barry, great to see you along today.
Eddie, thank you.
Well, Barry, we're into the time-on period of the first quarter now. A number of changes have been swung around yet again. What have you picked up so far?
Well, obviously Footscray have got Coleman and Charles changing at centre-half forward. They've done it fairly quickly, and that's been very beneficial for them. Geelong have settled a bit. I think Hocking's now started to come into the game, which has been sadly lacking. They haven't had anything around the packs. Key issues, I think probably the full forward for Geelong in Brownless has been a bit of a worry for Footscray. He's obviously kicked 3 goals, so he's going to be a thorn in their side if he continues in this fashion.
Now, the umpire's been very consistent on that one, hasn't he?
Yes,
the high tackles.
This has been about the 4th high tackle free kick that he's given so far. Probably right to do so, because you can't have them getting away with anything that's outside of the law at this early stage, otherwise the game gets away from them.
Okay.
The catch hasn't had an influence on the games yet. It's been fairly quiet.
Well, Barry, there have been a number of changes. We've mentioned that. Is there any particular thing that you do at the moment? Brownless seems to be getting away from Campbell at full-back. Would you make any switches there?
No, I think they've got to stay with Campbell. Campbell's shown that he's played well throughout the year, and I think they've got to stay with that. They've just got to deny Brownless the ball to stop it getting up there.
And he's pretty much a one-position player, isn't he?
Yeah, so that would worry me. He's more a straight-ahead player. He doesn't turn particularly well. As was seen 5 minutes ago when he ran right over a ball and couldn't get back on it.